Hello and welcome back to another video from Posito Maths, and today we're going to be doing the law of sine or sine rules. Now, for the first thing we need to know about the sine rules is the equation here. What this is sine A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. Now, these top numerators here, these represent the sides. So side here, 6.2, side here, 7.5, and we don't know this side. The sines and their representative letters mean the angles inside the triangle. Now what this equation means is that the side and the angle of the triangles are linked. So for instance, this angle here, 43, is linked to this side here, 7.5. This angle here, x, is linked to this angle here, 6.2. And that would make sense. For instance, if we made this angle larger, this side would get larger, and if we made this angle smaller, this side would get smaller. Now what this equation means is that the side and the sine of the angle is equal to any other side and the sine of that angle. Now, when we're making this equation, we will probably only need to use these first two sides. C very rarely comes into use. Now, what these letters actually just mean are just random sides and angles of the triangle. Okay, so let's get this started. So first of all, let's write out our equation. So let's pick a side. So let's do this. For A, normally we pick these set, for instance, the angle and the opposite side, as our A, and then our B is normally our unknown and our either angle or side. So let's write it out. 7.5 over sine 43, and we know that that is equal to 6.2 over the sine of x. Now obviously, to get our unknown and to calculate what this is, we're going to want to have x on its own. So the first thing we're going to want to do is flip these fractions. Now this does work. For example, if you have 1/2 equals 2 over 4, we can flip these fractions to get that 2 over 1 equals 4 over 2. And obviously if we divide 2 by 1 you get 2, and if you divide 4 by 2 you get 2. So even though these are different numbers, they're just a reciprocal, but they do equal each other, so this statement is still correct. So let's write it out like that, flipping the fractions over. So we have sine 43 over 7.5, and we know that that's equal to sine of x over 6.2. Now the next thing we need to do is to get sine x on its own. And the way we do this is by timesing both sides by 6.2. So 6.2 goes up to here. So let's write that out. So here we have sine 43 multiplied by 6.2, and we know that equals the sine of x. Okay, so now what we need to do is get rid of this sine. Now we can do that by using the opposite. And what I mean by the opposite, as you'll remember from trigonometry, is doing cosine, but to the sine to the -1. So we know that this equals sine x, and we can put that into our calculator to get sine x. So sine, so if we make a fraction, sine 43, we know that multiplied by 6.2 over 7.5, we know that that equals x, or the sine of x. However, to get x itself, we need to get this number, and we need to use it in the -1 state. So here we have sine to the -1 of our answer. And here we have our angle signs. Now, to round this up to 2 decimal places, we can just find the next two here, 6.2, that's an 8, so we'll round it up to 101.63. So we know that x is equal to 101.63. That's what you have to do. Okay, let's try another example. Okay, so this example is slightly different. See if you can pause the video and have a go. So the only reason this is different is instead of trying to figure out an angle, you're trying to figure out a side. Now this is much easier than trying to figure out an angle, as you don't have to get rid of the sine. So let's write it out as we did before. We have on our left hand side our already solved pair, which we know is 9.2 over the sine of 61. And we know that that is equal to x, our unknown here, over sine after sine of 54. Now we can just do exactly as we've done before and multiply out the sine of 54, so that we would get that 9.2 multiplied by sine 54, and we know that that must be equal to x. And that is all that you have to do. So now we can just go over to our calculator and do the sine of 54, and we know that that multiplied by the sine by 9.2, and we know that divided by the sine of 61, and we know that that must be equal to x. So let's put that in and see what it comes out with. 8.509. We know if we round that to two decimal places, we get 8.51. So that would be our answer. X is equal to 8.51. And that's all we need to do. Okay, let's try one more example. Okay, pause the video and have a go. Okay, so we'll do what we did for the last two questions, and we'll write out our equation with our full set on the left. So we have 7.6 over sine 52, and then we know that that is equal to 5.2 over the sine of x. Okay, now we need to flip the fractions around to get that sine 52 over 7.6. We know that that is equal to the sine of x, and we know that it's divided by 5.2. Now we need to put that into our calculator after we've timed this one up to here. So we now go over to our calculator and we go sine 52, and we know that that multiplied by 5.2 and divided by 7.6. We know that that is equal to the sine of x. And as we know from our previous step, we just need to now do sine to the minus 1 of the answer, and that will give us the value of our angle. So there we have it, 106.269, and as we know, rounding up to two decimal places, be 106.27. So we know that x is equal to 106.27. And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and remember to like and subscribe and hit that notifications button so you know when our next upload. And thank you very much.